Nobody really falls in love with words alone. They fall for moments they can't explain later. You know, those small, almost invisible things that happen in between the conversation. The glance, the pause, the way someone makes you feel without even trying. And the truth is, most people completely overlook what actually creates that kind of impact until it's already too late. Welcome to Decode His Mind, where we break down the hidden psychology of men and uncover what really shapes attraction, emotions, and deep connection beyond surface level advice. In today's video, we're exploring the small, subtle gestures that quietly influence how a man feels about a woman. Those simple moments that create lasting emotional impact without saying much at all. Nobody really tells women this, but the things that actually reach a man's heart have very little to do with being the most beautiful, the funniest, or the most impressive person in the room. It's not about your looks, it's not about your personality, and it's not about how interesting your life appears online. The women who truly stay in a man's mind, the ones he thinks about later at night when everything is quiet and he can't even fully explain why, they do something completely different. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's not planned. It quotes small things, simple things, quiet moments that most women don't even notice, even though they happen every day. They use gestures, not big romantic gestures or over-the-top effort. I'm talking about subtle, natural actions that land deep in a man's emotions without him even realizing it in the moment. And once something like that lands, it stays. He doesn't just forget it the next day. Here's the surprising part. Most women never use these moments on purpose. Not because they're complicated or require some special skill, but because nobody ever pointed out how powerful they actually are. Nobody connected that tiny behavior to the fact that he's still thinking about her days later. So today, I want to connect those dots for you. I want to walk you through these small gestures one by one, explain why they affect a man so strongly, and show you how they naturally happen when you're present in the moment. Because once you understand this, you'll see something clearly that most people never figure out about men. Before we go into it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell so you don't miss future content from Decode His Mind. This space is built for honest insight into how men think, not the same repeated advice that never really explains anything. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Also, be honest. Do you think small actions can affect a man more deeply than words ever could? I'm curious what you think. Now let's get into it. Most women don't fully understand this about men, and it's not their fault. Nobody really explains it properly. Men feel things very deeply, much deeper than they usually show. A man doesn't fall for someone just because she said the right thing or looked good in a moment. He falls because of how he felt around her in a specific instant. And here's the key part. That moment is rarely big. It's not some long emotional conversation or a perfectly planned romantic interaction. It's usually something very small. A glance, a short pause, a simple touch, a moment that seems normal on the surface, but hits him in a way he doesn't expect. His conscious mind might not even register it at first, but something inside him already reacted. That's how humans are wired. We don't just process things logically. Our nervous system reads people instantly. It picks up tone, energy, expression, and presence long before we start thinking about it. So when a man later says, "There's just something about her," he's not talking about logic. He's talking about a feeling his body already understood before his mind did. And that's exactly why these small gestures matter so much. They bypass overthinking. They go straight into emotion. The first one is a slow smile. Not a big, exaggerated smile for a photo. Not a polite social smile. Not the kind you give when you're just being nice. A slow smile. The kind that starts in the eyes before the lips fully react. The kind that looks like it happened on its own, like something he said actually reached you and your reaction came naturally. This matters because men are constantly reading women's faces, even when they don't show it. He's asking himself without words, is she really enjoying this or just being polite? Is she actually here with me or somewhere else in her head? Big smiles don't answer that question. They can be performed, they can be automatic, they don't always feel real. But a slow smile feels different. It feels unplanned. It feels genuine. It feels like something slipped through. And when a man sees that, something in him softens. He feels like he did something right without even trying. He starts wanting to see that reaction again, not because he analyzed it, but because it felt good to receive. And the truth is, you can't force this. The more you try to fake it, the less real it looks. It only happens when you're actually present in the moment, actually listening, actually feeling something. When that happens naturally, he notices. Even if he never says it out loud, later, he remembers it. Not the words, not the topic, but that feeling of being the reason for that small, real reaction. The second gesture is leaning in when he talks. Not in an obvious way, not dramatically, just a slight natural shift forward when he's speaking. When a man is talking about something, especially something he cares about, most people listen half-heartedly. They nod, but their attention is split. They're thinking about their reply, their phone, or something else entirely. So when a woman actually leans in, even slightly, it sends a strong message without a single word. It tells him, I'm here with you. I'm not distracted. What you're saying matters enough for me to come closer to it. And that feeling is rare. In today's world, real attention is uncommon. People are physically present, but mentally elsewhere all the time. So when someone is fully there with you, your nervous system notices immediately. He feels heard, not just listened to. There's a difference. Being heard makes a man open up more. It makes him feel safe in the conversation. And slowly, he starts associating that feeling with the person giving it to him. Not because she said anything special, but because she leaned in when he spoke. The third gesture is using his name. Just naturally, not constantly, not in a forced way, just here and there in conversation. Like, that actually makes sense, Jake. Or, wait, how did that turn out for you, Jake? A person's name is one of the most emotionally direct sounds to their brain. It instantly gets attention. It feels personal every single time. When you use someone's name naturally, it changes the entire feeling of the conversation. It's no longer general. It becomes directed. It becomes personal. He stops feeling like he's just talking to someone. He starts feeling like he's talking to you specifically as himself, not just a guy in a conversation. And in a world where so many interactions feel replaceable, that feeling stands out more than most people realize. It makes him feel seen as an individual, not just another person in the room. And when a man feels that, even in a simple conversation, it sticks with him longer than expected. It makes him feel like he matters to her. And when a man feels like he truly matters to a woman he's drawn to, he's already halfway there emotionally. Even if he doesn't fully understand it yet, his mind starts circling her in a different way. Something shifts inside him before he can even explain why. The fourth gesture is remembering something small he mentioned once. Something he probably said casually, almost in passing, not thinking it would mean anything later. But then, in a later conversation, maybe the same day, maybe days after, she brings it up again. Not in a dramatic or exaggerated way, not like she memorized every word, just something simple and natural. Wait, didn't you say your brother is the funny one in your family? By the way, how did that work situation turn out? Did it end up going the way you wanted? She remembered me. She was actually listening. I mattered enough for that to stay with her. And that feeling does something deeper than attraction. It builds trust, not surface level trust, but the kind that makes a man start seeing her differently. Not just as someone enjoyable to talk to, but someone he naturally wants closer in his life. The fifth gesture is a light touch followed by pulling back. A quick, natural touch on his arm when something is funny. A brief touch on his hand when she's making a point. Nothing staged, nothing held on to, just something that happens in the flow of the moment. And then she lets it go. No lingering, no checking his reaction, no turning it into a moment, just touch and then distance again. And that combination is where the effect comes from. Touch in itself is one of the most direct forms of human communication. It bypasses overthinking and goes straight into feeling. Even a brief, light touch from someone you're drawn to can shift your internal state instantly. It creates warmth, awareness, a subtle emotional charge that words alone can't replicate. But the pullback is what makes it powerful, because now it wasn't forced, it wasn't clinging, it wasn't overdone. It was natural, effortless, and gone just as quickly as it came. And that's what makes him notice it more. Now he's aware of the spot she touched. He's aware of the space where her presence just was. He's aware that it felt good and it's no longer there. And that contrast creates awareness. And awareness creates memory. He doesn't consciously think that touch meant something, but his body remembers it anyway. That's why he finds himself slightly more drawn in afterward. Even if nothing obvious changed, something small shifted in his perception of her, and it came from a moment that lasted only a second. The sixth gesture is being comfortable with silence, not rushing to fill every pause, not feeling like every moment has to be filled with words, just allowing quiet moments to exist without panic. Most people struggle with this. Silence feels like pressure. It feels like something is wrong, like the conversation is slipping, like something needs fixing. So they talk more, they fill gaps, they keep things moving just to avoid the discomfort of quiet. But when a woman doesn't do that, when she's calm in the silence, it changes the entire emotional atmosphere, because now there's no pressure to perform. No need to constantly entertain. No obligation to keep energy alive every second. She's just there, comfortable, present, and that calmness transfers. He relaxes too. He stops trying to manage the moment and starts actually being in it. And in that space, something more real starts forming. Not through words, but through presence. The kind of connection that doesn't need noise to exist is the kind that stays in his memory long after the interaction ends. The seventh gesture is looking at him like she's proud of him. Not in a dramatic way, not with praise, not with explanation, just a moment, a glance, a look in her eyes that says she noticed something about him and it mattered. Maybe he handled something well. Maybe he said something thoughtful. Maybe he showed character in a small way. And she just looks at him like, I saw that. No words, no build-up, just recognition. And that hits deeper than most compliments ever could. Because underneath everything, most men carry a quiet need, not to be praised, but to be seen. To feel that who they are actually registers with someone they care about. Not just what they do, not just what they provide, but who they are underneath it. And when he feels that reflected back at him in her eyes, even for a moment, it sticks. It changes how he sees her, not because it's intense, but because it feels real. Now, here's the most important part of all of this. None of these things are techniques. They are not tricks. They are not strategies to control a man's feelings. And if they are used that way, they lose everything that makes them work. Because men can feel when something is performed. There's always a difference between something that's real and something that's calculated. And that difference kills connection instantly. These only work when they are natural, when they come from being present, not from trying to produce a reaction. When you're actually listening, you lean in without thinking. When something genuinely moves you, you smile without forcing it. When a moment feels warm, you might touch his arm without planning it. When you're actually with him, you use his name naturally because you're talking to him, not just talking. That's when it lands. Not because you followed steps, but because you were actually there. And when a man experiences that kind of presence from a woman, something quiet happens in him. He starts thinking about her differently, without knowing exactly why. She doesn't feel like every other interaction anymore. She feels distinct, real, memorable. In the end, what really stays with a man isn't perfection, performance, or big romantic effort. It's the small natural moments where he feels genuinely seen, heard, and emotionally safe around you. A slow smile, real attention, remembering little things, a light touch, comfort in silence, and quiet pride in him. These aren't techniques, they're expressions of presence. Because when a man feels that kind of genuine connection, it doesn't just stay in the moment. It stays in his mind long after you've left it. And that's what turns a simple interaction into something unforgettable. If this video helped you understand things on a deeper level, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss what we upload next on Decode His Mind. And in the comments, I want you to drop one word: presence. If you felt the message of this video and want more content like this.